So we look into our future and where we are in life. And today I want to show you. Today my special guest is my gray board, and I want to go deep into the cash flow quadrant because I find it to be so interesting. It's one of the things that I've been learning the most. And I want to share with you, maybe you want to analyze where you are in life. Maybe you want to let it marinate and, really analyze it the same way that I have been doing it. I think we grow when we know where we are in life and where is it that we want to go. So let me hop on this right away to show you. This is the cash flowing quadrant. It's by Robert Kiyosaki. Hey, Tricia, nice to see you here. And you probably have heard from Robert Kiyosaki from his book Rich Dad Poor Dad, also the business of the 21st century, or you can simply Google it. You will find all the information. But this is his cash flowing quadrant. I have been learning this through my mentor. He was mentored himself by Robert Kiyosaki, and he pours all his knowledge. He has been in network marketing and has been a 7-figure multiple earners for the past 14 years. And he also have experience in diamonds and gemstone. And he has a free business school that he mentors us 3 times a week. And these are just a few of the things that he teaches us in each the cash flowing quadrants. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I know myself, I learn more when I hear samples and I can visualize it. So I'm going to use myself as an example as I go through the cash flowing quadrants to help you understand it better. Okay, so this is the traditional way, the E, the S, the B, and the I. And let me just have my pointer here. Heads up, just to let you know, my dog is right here just in case that something starts moving around. But anyways, the first quadrant is on the left, which is the most traditional and you guys are more aware of, which is the E and the S, okay? The E stands for employee and the S stands for self-employed. I myself happen to have been transitioning from the E quadrant to the S quadrant, and I'm shooting over to the B quadrant, which is the business owner. But before we go to the right side, which is the side where you want to be, I want to explain a little bit about these two and why is it that it is the most typical one, but how to reevaluate where you are, because we have pain points here, and I'm going to show you some of them. As an employee, I used to be an employee myself, and this is the most common one, is the traditional one, is what the culture teaches us to be, which is we trade time for money, okay? And this is the one that I did for many years. I have a background in architecture and construction engineering, and I hustled my way on my career, and I went exactly where I wanted to be, just like all of us. We get the degree, we want the position, we want the income, we want the status, and I had everything that I wanted. However, I found myself being on a golden cage, okay? And you are probably feeling the same way. And what I mean by that, I was simply working. That was it. I didn't have a life. I was just going to work, going to bed, going to work, going to bed. And I had a wake-up call one day as I was driving at 5 in the morning, and something inside of me just knew there must have been something else out there. I couldn't see myself doing that for 10 years forward. So that's when something inside of me ignited me into moving quadrants. Back then I had no idea what this was. So I happened to end up in the self-employed quadrant the day that I joined my husband in his business. And I started seeing a quadrant that I had never faced before. And I couldn't understand certain things until I was fully into it. And I started understanding this is fantastic. Being self-employed is fantastic. However, what a lot of people do not understand is that you do have a lot of pain points. This is also very common. This is those people that they have the boat, they have the house, and they're always empty because they don't have the time to enjoy those things that they have, because the business on you. And you probably have heard me say this week that you don't know until you decide to take 30 days off. When you decide to take 30 days off, if you ever can, that's when you realize that the business on you, because you own the system. And that is something that I would go more in details as I move quadrants. But this is the thing. This is fantastic. Like I said, this is where I am right now. And the pain points is that when you go on vacation, you take the system with you. You are the system. If you're not there, the business is not moving. So there's no sick time. There's no hardly any vacation. In my experience, myself, we take vacation only once a year. And I believe we had done a 30-day once. But normally we do a 3-week vacation at the end of the year during the holidays. And I'll be totally honest, by the beginning of the 3rd week, we are dying to go back simply because we love what we do. You probably might be possibly like, what are you talking about? But when you have your business, you love what you do, okay? Hopefully you do. But most people cannot do that. They work throughout the entire year and they just try to, do long weekends here and there, okay? So that's the traditional, and you have a lot of overhead. On a business, a self-employed person can be having great revenue on paper, but that doesn't mean that that's really what you're bringing at the end of the year. So there's a lot of things that takes pain points on this quadrant. I know myself, because when things get tight or the slow season, you really need to cut your expenses. And sometimes that means that you have to cut even your income in order to keep your business afloat. And that's something that a lot of people do not see unless they are into being a self-employed. Now, understand, and this is very important when you are transitioning, and I want to put this in the middle because the word transitioning is vital as you're moving through the cash flowing quadrant. Because if you go from an employee to become a business owner and you don't have the self-employed experience, it's going to take you a little longer to understand that it takes time. It takes time to grow a business, okay? You don't see a self-employed person opening a business and quitting within 90 days. Normally, when you open a traditional business, and we're talking about, you have a location, you have inventory, you have a warehouse or a boutique, whatever that is, and you have all this investment into the business. The traditional way is that you need to allow at least 5 years to allow that business to start cash flowing. And that is vital. When you're a self-employed, you know that because you have experienced that. So as you transition and you allow time strain to be your friend, you develop that tenacity, I would say. You develop that knowledge, okay? So I had been on the E quadrant, on the S quadrant, and now I'm shooting over to the B quadrant, which is the right side. The right side is the idea side that you want to be, okay? And this is where I'm transitioning to being a business owner. Now, I'm not doing it the traditional way. I think a lot of things are changing as let me just double check something here as I got disconnect this. Okay. Okay, so I got my lighting back. Like I was saying, I'm doing it the non-traditional way. You can do this the traditional way. Okay, there's nothing wrong with doing it the traditional way, but I believe that times are changing, and there's a lot of ways to do being a business owner the non-traditional way, and that's what I'm doing it, and that's what I'm going to show you, which is by leveraging a fulfillment center and duplicating system. We're talking, think about Amazon, think about Uber, okay? This is I like to call it the invisible franchise, meaning that you have a business, but you don't own anything. You don't have any warehouse, you don't have any trucks, you don't have any inventory. So to me, that's the smart way. That's the way to do it. As I had envisioned moving from self-employed to business owner, I did not want to get into those expensive investments, as I had already doing it. I have already done it. Let me say it like that. Throughout the business with my husband, I didn't want to go and start all over again and have those type of investments. So I went the non-traditional way, without having those investments, just a little upfront cost. Okay, so this is what it is. When you leverage a fulfillment center, it becomes passive over time, and that is the key word, passive. Okay, when you are working for somebody else, you don't have any passive income. You are still investing the same time. You are still working, whether you get another job or you're thinking that you need a raise, or you need a higher paying job. At the end of the day, you do not have passive income. And passive income, you can Google it, is income that works for you even when you are asleep, when you're on vacation, 24 hours, 7 days a week. That is how you create wealth, because you don't need to be actively involved in order to build it. So that is the advantage of having a non-traditional business like network marketing, in order to build passive income, build that cash flowing asset that takes you to the next quadrant, which is the investor quadrant. This is the idea where you want to be, and this is where our mentor teaches us not only to get into the business owner quadrant through our free business school 3 times a week that he teaches us, but he also teaches us that when you allow time, strength for you to learn and grow and navigate through all these quadrants, and you have developed that cash flowing asset that is bringing in that extra pipe of income, then you become wise and you start investing. Okay, and this is the next step. This is the ideal one. And this too, you're leveraging systems. Your money is working for you. Here, you're exchanging time for money. Okay, this is the typical one. This is the right side, is where you want to be. This is where you have more time and more freedom. And freedom is different from everyone. I mean, it all depends on, some people just love to work, and even if they have to work 24 hours, it doesn't matter to them. But if you want more freedom, whether it is to spend more quality time with your family, maybe you like to open your own charity, a nonprofit, this will allow you to have a business on the side that maybe you need to put a few hours a day. And once it's solid and working and completely cash flowing, it takes less time. And then you can turn that time around to do really things that you're passionate about. That things that on the typical employee of self-employed, you don't have the time. You probably had never thought about even thinking about doing a nonprofit or doing whatever your heart desires. So this is what being on the B and the I quadrant allows you. It allows you to think about your dreams. Here, you only think about nothing. Basically, your dreams are dying. Because I remember when I was on the E quadrant, and you have heard me call this the golden cage, was when I had lost myself. I realized I put myself in a cage, and all I do is work. And even though here I'm with my husband and we are together, it's still a golden cage because we still work long hours. The only difference is that we are together and we enjoy our company. But as I'm looking into the future and I'm, crossing quadrants into the business owner, whether he wants to retire in the future and he wants to travel, my business allow me to run it from anywhere in the world. So I'm not tied down into a location. I'm not tied down to employees. I'm not tied out to overhead. Okay, I can run it from anywhere as long as I have Wi-Fi. So that's why it's called the business of the 21st century. But the most important thing, because like I said, you can have this the traditional way, but the most important thing is the traditional way doesn't build passive income that is willable and transferable, which is vital because like I said earlier, you can spend 40, 50, 60 hours, whatever you want to work, and you just get paid once. When you are working passive income is something that keeps duplicating, and this is the key point that a lot of people don't seem to understand. This keeps duplicating and duplicating, and when I said duplicating, it keeps expanding. So let's just talk about numbers. Let's say from 2 goes to 4, and from 4 it goes to 2, 4, 6, it goes to 6, and then it keeps duplicating. So let's say that you are putting, I don't know, 2 hours, or let's say an hour a day, but at the end of the day you're being paid for, let's say it duplicated to 96 hours because it keeps growing. So you're putting, let's say 7 hours a week, just an example, but you're at the end of the day you're getting paid for 96 hours. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and let it marinate. Okay, and another thing about having the non-traditional business as a business owner, and leveraging a fulfillment center that is an invisible franchise, is that if it's a global business, like my business is global, you might be working locally, but you're getting paid globally. Okay, so once again, let it really sink in and understand what passive income over time, non-traditional, and how it allows you to have multiple cash flowing assets that you can then move into investing. Okay, so this is where I had been. I went from being an employee to self-employed, now shooting into business owner, and I have allowed myself for time strength to develop the mindset to understand how the typical employee thinks and how you have to really get rid of that layer and start thinking as a self-employed person, and then how to get rid of that layer and then go into a business owner, and then how as a business owner then you start thinking as an investor, and that's how you create wealth. So that's all I wanted to show you guys, and I want to really let it marinate, because these are things that we are not taught in school. I myself, like I said, my background is architecture and engineering, and I have worked with a lot of professionals. And these are things that I never heard before. Nobody ever talks about this. And everybody's just thinking about getting the higher paying job. But what they don't realize is that when you get the higher paying job, it demands more from you. And at the end of the day, all that you increased is actually going into your taxes, and that is a great topic for next time on W-2 versus 1099. But that's all I wanted to share with you guys. If you have any questions about this, feel free to reach out. Like I said, this is the cash flowing quadrant from Robert Kiyosaki. We are taught this on our free business school 3 times a week. If you want to find out a little bit more about our free business school and what it can do for you and your future, just send me a message. Let's hop on the phone and let me share with you what I have learned, my experience, and see if it's something that is a good fit for you. Okay, guys, that's all that I wanted to share with you. Have a great night and God bless you. Ciao.